It always says I'm live, and then I'm not live, you know.
Yeah.
No, every time. It's kind of difficult to deal with. Um, yeah, it looks like we may not be getting a large crowd in today, folks. How you doing? I'm Michael Noland. This is The Bottom Line. Tonight is Tribal Forum number 68, and we're going to be talking about how Paul McCartney, but we're going to be talking about the Beatles quite a bit too, is releasing a brand new Wings anthology instead, I might add, of remastered and remixed versions of London Town and Back to the Egg, which is something longtime fans have wanted and desired by him and have felt that they've even been promised that. Okay. Before we get going, I do want to say what happens here on the tribal forum is this is where I get a chance to talk to you guys in the here and now. The channel isn't a political channel. It's not a religious channel. It's not really a philosophy-based channel or anything like that. Although we do delve into that a bit from time to time. It's a rock and roll channel, right? And the whole channel is based around dialogue. Okay, I say something, I bring up a subject, and you guys either agree with my point of view or you don't. And if you don't, you type it in, you go, "You're wrong, Michael. I disagree with you," right? And today is truly a sad, sad day in America, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not going to be bringing this up too much, except to not bring it up would be absolutely ludicrous. Evidently, dialogue is not big with certain people. Dialogue was shut down today on a university campus. 31-year-old man who spoke his piece was shot in the throat and killed. A young man who has a wife of under 4 years or about 4 years, and two even younger children who will not see their father tonight. And this is all based on because of what the man had to say. It doesn't matter whether you agreed with his message or not. It was a viable dialogue, long honored here in the United States of America. And today is a sad day when dialogue has been shut down. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is, first of all, my honest feelings about doing this stream today was to shut it down. But I do make a commitment to be up here on Sundays and Wednesdays at 5 p.m. That's PST. All right, that's Pacific Standard Time. And so that's why I'm up here. Now, I have an entire stream ready to present, a set of ideas, just like I usually do, folks. And we'll go on with this. But I felt for the first time in the history of this channel, as I'm going live, like I didn't want to be here today. Uh, I hate those who can't handle dialogue. I always have. Now, here on YouTube, you can't handle my dialogue. You want to shut me down. It's real easy. All you have to do is, unsubscribe. That's what every YouTube content creator has to deal with. And that's fine. That sounds like a fair deal to me. And those who like the dialogue will subscribe, and the channel will either grow or it'll dissipate one way or another. But to shut down dialogue with violence, that's the work of a subhuman to me. Enough said. All right, some channel business. I noticed, and you guys made it impossible not to do my stream, especially when Oberheim. How you doing, Oberheim? He told me later. I always listen to you at work, Michael. And you did he use it rarely, or it was a word kind of like rarely? And you rarely disappoint. But I do disappoint occasionally, Brandon. Uh, but anyway, Brandon was in with, I'm just knocking on you, man. You're at work. You want to hear some dialogue, right? Uh, he sent us a $3 super thanks, right after him, Irga Split and Loudon Bloomer, you know. aka don't tell anybody outside the tribe, but he's also known as Gear Jam, send in a $2 super thanks. I mean, this just happened, folks. And he said, swinging the deuce hammer. Damn right, I'm going to incorporate that. Always be willing to swing the deuce hammer. You know, $2 adds up quite a bit. You can see this happening right here, right? Right now. And anyway, he said he was doing it early today, right? Rockin' Robin Bird's in. Says, hello, tribe. Not well tonight, but I'll be listening. And Rockin' Robin Bird, our prayers and thoughts go out to you. I hope you're feeling better soon. I think there was something going on with you last week, and prayers and thoughts to you and anybody in the tribe that's suffering today in any way. You know, always prayers and thoughts. I know a lot of people poo poo that idea as being a waste of time. I don't agree. But having good thoughts about people and sending positive vibes can't hurt a damn thing, if you ask me, right? Okay, so that gets us into. Oh, I also wanted to let you guys know who gave us super thanks on our last show. I always do this, right? And of course, I have in this first one, you were already on the list when I copied it. Irgesplitten Loudenboomer with a $2. Now, Rockin' Robin Bird, you're not on this one, so you'll be on that shout out next time. But you kind of got another shout out just now with your wonderful $2 super thanks. And Oberheim with his $3 super thanks. Deuce is Wild from our last stream, $2. Chris Barlow, $5. Agent Pepsi 1 with a $2 super thanks. How you doing, Natasha? Good to see you out there. Did you know that that was Natasha, baby? Her name's Natasha. Who? Agent Pepsi. Oh, Agent Pepsi, yeah. Yeah. And then Just the Facts Man was in with a $5 super thanks. Michael Boswell, often in, and with a super thanks that doesn't necessarily agree with me. I value that, Michael, a whole lot, with a $5 super thanks. Deuces Wild was in with a $20 super thanks. Michael Boswell again with another $5 super thanks. A new person, Greg Ropp. Welcome, Greg, with a $3 super thanks. Agent Pepsi 1, Natasha, again with another $5 super thanks. Natalie Angelo, the divine Natalie Angelo, in with $3. And Michael Boswell, once again, in with a $5 super thanks. Irgesplitten Loudenboomer, we're not going to divulge his real identity now, but $2, and Deuces Wild with a $10 super thanks. Just the Facts Man and the Four Horsemen came in at the last bit and gave us a $10 super thanks each. Both of these channels are brother channels to this channel. Matter of fact, when I stream on Sundays at 5, I usually go 5 to about 6, right? And then from 6, I and 6:30, I take a break, and then I'm on Royce's show. I almost said house. And of course, he's rebranded his channel. A couple of you have thanked me for letting you know that because you weren't getting notified of his stuff. So be sure to make sure that your notifications are all turned on and that you're kind of connected. Make a couple of visits over there, and you guys will more than likely set the algorithm to be notified and everything. But he's now called the Four Horsemen, and we have a panel of four. It gets down to that, doesn't it? We have three regular horsemen every week, or at least the three if they're able to show up. If they're not able to show up, then Royce carries it on as a duel, bringing in the fourth horseman. It just adds more chance for the visiting horseman to get their thoughts in on what we're talking about that night. All right, so now that gets us down to what we're talking about in the stream this evening. What is being released by Paul McCartney? Well, it's the album cover, first of all. First of all, we're going to get a new Wings anthology, if you guys weren't here at the very beginning. All right, this is brand new. It's coming out this fall. This is what the Paul McCartney camp is offering us this year. And as I said in my opening, what we're not getting is either a remixed and remastered London Town or Back to the Egg, because those haven't been finished as almost promised by Paul, right? Instead, we're going back to this. Now, this isn't the first time that Paul's gone down this line. There's Wing's Greatest, right? What was it? Paul McCartney's Greatest or Best? I forgot what that album was called. You got No More Lonely Nights on it and everything. And then later on, you had Wingspan, right? And now, what we're getting is Wings. Uh, that's the name of the album, by the way, or the anthology, right? And why do I keep calling this that? Well, keep on listening. It says Wings is the ultimate anthology. This is how Paul is describing this album of the band that defined the sound of the 70s. I don't know if they defined it. They certainly were a major part of it and influenced other bands, as was Paul, influenced by a lot of the current big acts of the time. I mean, we had Paul Simon, we had Fleetwood Mac, we had Elton John. Uh, Good Lord, just a ton of people that were on the radio every other week. And Paul McCartney and Wings was one of those acts, definitely one of the biggest acts from the 70s, the second biggest group that Paul McCartney was ever in. And that includes even his own private stuff that he's done, just his solo stuff. Wings was more successful than just Paul the solo artist, even though Paul the solo artist has put out masterpieces. All right. But in general, Wings was the second biggest act that Paul McCartney has ever been involved in, right? A loving, curated time capsule, it goes on to say, of imagery and music personally overseen by Paul McCartney. Wings includes 32 timeless international hits, including Band on the Run, Live and Let Die, and Let 'Em In, songs that still feature in his live shows to this date. Presented in a die-cut hardback slipcase housing, the 3LP limited edition collection features translucent clear, green, and pink. 180-gram vinyl and was designed by Paul and Aubrey Poe Powell of Hypnosis. All right, Hypnosis. As far as I know, I saw the um, documentary on that. They're pretty much defunct, but evidently they brought Aubrey out of retirement, or maybe he just keeps doing this. Maybe some of you guys know, but he's part of the design. Now, the design of the album is pretty much blank, except for the word Wings, and inside the boundaries of these very thick letters, WINGS, are tons of photographs of the band and everything like that. I'm not all that impressed. It certainly doesn't look that great on your average iPad or computer screen unless you blow it way up, and maybe at 12 inches, the damn thing would be more impressive. But I'm not all that impressed. I'm not disappointed in it necessarily, but it seems a little low key, if you ask me. The expanded booklet also includes an introduction by Paul, plus extensive album by album notes on the iconic artwork written by Poe, because some of that artwork was by Hypnosis, by the way. Paul dipped into that camp on more than one occasion, right? Uh, uh, with an additional editorial by Pete Papidis. Never heard of the dude, and showcases original portraits of the band by Humphrey Ocean. In addition to the booklet, the 3LP set includes two posters, a sticker sheet, and an exclusive litho print. Right? Okay, so what do you get on this? Well, let me see. I already got that portion. On LP1, all right, now we're just talking about the LP. Now, you can get this album on CD. I believe it's a double CD set, right? With the same kind of format and everything. That's not going to cost you as much as the vinyl, of course. But this is what you get with vinyl. I'm just now back into vinyl, right? So, in a way, I'm old school. I had a huge vinyl collection back in the day, but it's been decades since I bothered with the thing and been back into it the last couple of years, right? Small collection. I'll share some of that in a minute with you as to how I'm reacting to the news on this. And then that'll give you an idea of where I'm coming from on this. But with the vinyl version, you can either get a 3 LP vinyl version with three different colors, or you can get it on black vinyl, or you can get a single LP. And when you're thinking about what's being offered here, what could a single LP actually offer anybody at this point? That'll be interesting because I want to go over what that single LP will handle as well. All right, so bear with me here, folks. First of all, LP1, side A, you get Band on the Run, High, 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 Silly Love Songs, Letting Go, 1985, one of my favorites by him. That's the last track. On LP1 side B, you get Live and Let D, Live and Let D, Live and Let Die, Mamunia, Junior's Farm, Helen Wheels, and Some People Never Know. Now on LP2 side A, you get Let 'Em In, Get on the Right Thing. That is the one track out of this whole thing. I've always loved Get on the Right Thing. I read somewhere where Paul didn't like that song, and yet it's being included here. That's interesting, right? I actually read an interview where he he never nailed it the way he wanted to, and I think it's one of the premier tracks off that album. Jet would be next, My Love, and Call Me Back Again. Now, the B side of the second LP will be Getting Closer, Listen to What the Man said, I've Had Enough, Love is Strange, London Town, Arrow Through Me. Oh, I see that. Oh my goodness.
Another super thing.
Oh yeah, $20. You're just splitting. I'll be with you in a minute. I'm just going to finish up LP3 here, and then I'll acknowledge what you just said. Now, LP3, side A. Okay. All right. This is the final LP. Man, we've gotten a ton of great songs here. Some I'm not sure I would have put on. Never been a fan of I've Had Enough. I remember they released that as a single in the North Bay where I was growing up. And at the time, I was in my 20s, so I was already a working man, right? And they released that. It went nowhere. Nobody liked that song, all right? It was a late single release from that album. I wouldn't have put it on there. But on side three, or LP3, side A, you get Venus and Mars Rock Show as a single track. She's My Baby, Bluebird, Deliver Your Children, Let Me Roll It, Mullet of Kintyre, and then the B side of the final LP, you'll get Wildlife, Sea Moon, With a Little Luck, Soily, From One Hand Clapping. Where have we seen this before? Keep that in mind. Soily, From One Hand Clapping. Okay, and Good Night Tonight. All right. Now, let me, before we go on any further, I want to see what was it Irgish splitting, baby?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. $20. Thank you so much, Irgish splitting. Prayers to Charlie Kirk's family and to my fellow tribe mates who are struggling with medical, emotional issues. Hang in there. The tribe is pulling for you. Is pulling for you. It was the color I was having trouble reading it. Some of the colors on these are difficult to read in one go. Irga Splitting so very well said. You don't have to be a proponent of the man's politics. All right. He was a man with some ideas. He would share that. And if you didn't like that, I'm sure you never watched him, or you watched him just to hate him. It doesn't matter. But guess what you didn't do? You didn't go out there and end his life today. You knew it was dialogue, and kudos to each and every one of you, you know. And I'll ditto that fact about all of you who are experiencing. I have a bit of an older viewership for the most part. I've got some youngins out there too, and I'll tell you, every day's an adventure once you get to a certain age, isn't it? And you've got your good days and your bad days. I always call them gravity days, right? And today would have been a gravity day, right? For me, because the emotional impact of this, the fact that no, we will not speak of this anymore, you shall not exist, is such a lame ass response to anybody, no matter what side of the political aisle they're on. If this had happened to someone on the other side of the political aisle just before I got up on stream, I'd be saying the same damn thing, folks. Okay? When we fail to communicate, man, I just had the perfect opportunity to do that. What we have here is a failure to communicate. You know, Cool Hand Luke, great movie. Strother Martin, one of my favorite
Such a
character
great
actors
character.
of all
Yeah.
time. What's that, baby?
I said I love Strother Martin
Ye-
too.
Yeah, he was great.
He is a unique personality.
Yeah, I loved him in Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid. Can you
yeah.
shoot? What, and he goes, what? Can you shoot? That's great. Later, Robert Redford goes, can I move? And he goes, pow, 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 pow. And he goes, I'm better when I move, right? Anyway, so let's get back to what this LP has to offer. Okay, so that's what you get with the LP. That's what you get with the CD, right? But it also comes as a one LP or a one CD release. And here's what you get on it. You get Let 'Em In, Jet, Band on the Run, Let 'Em In, Jet, With a Little Luck, Arrow Through Me, nice choice, 1985, Silly Love Songs, My Love, Live and Let Die, Listen to What the Man Says, Good Night Tonight, and Mull of Kintyre. Now, if I was going to be kind of enticed into all of this, first of all, you got to understand, I said I am both a newbie and kind of old school when it comes to buying albums. First of all, getting back into vinyl, I'm buying albums as I find them. Sometimes I find them used. Sometimes I actually go out and buy them. When it comes to Paul McCartney, and you got to understand, I've been doing this for about 2 years now, right? And I've managed to get just about everything and some other stuff from Led Zeppelin. Pink Floyd got a huge portion of their stuff so far. Most just lacking two of the original membership albums, original members of Black Sabbath, and dozens of more people. Yes, I've got a ton of Yes albums. I've got a ton of Beatle albums already, and I'm buying them as I get to it, right? And I just shared this with you guys. I just purchased this as the remastered RAM, right? And since I didn't find it out in the wild, and I wanted a nice new experience of listening to Ram. All right. Now, as soon as the Beatles were announcing what they were going to release this year, this is what I started doing. All right. I'm not going to spend my money on what the Beatles are offering. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Right. And this just came in today. I ordered this weeks ago. This is the McCartney album, probably my. All right. So, first of all, let's get a couple of things straight here. Two of McCartney's very best albums, right up there with Band on the Run, Venus and Mars. Okay. These are huge, huge albums for different reasons. If I had to choose McCartney's very best album. This is the one. All right, this is the one that I would put up against All Things Must Pass and John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band album. That's what I think is George Harrison and John Lennon's best albums. This is the one I would put up against that, not Band on the Run. Right. And if there is an album I truly love, I always turn to this. I always go, that's stupid, man. They put the front cover and they got the names of the songs on it. I never saw this as the front cover. Right. To me, that they should have had this material put here somewhere and just put that damn picture on the front cover. Isn't that wonderful? Iconic. If there is one album, and you're going, you just got this, Michael? If there is one album in rock and roll that tugs at my heartstrings, there's only one other album that does it quite like this, and that would be Led Zeppelin's very first album. Neither one of them I would rank as his very best, but this is one of his four best, and I'll defend it till the day I die. Now, Venus and Mars. I just bought this. All right. The 50th anniversary. There was a lot. Remember, I was saying, I don't know if I'm going to get, I don't know. Why would I get this? Yeah. And the main reason was because of me catching it in the wild. Okay. And I listened to this one, which has a ton of pops and clicks, but I couldn't help but note that the mix was fantastic. And so I got this. All right. Whole series of videos coming up on this real soon. All right. And the best way to catch up on those will be to be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bar, and you'll see where I'm going with all of this as we tap out throughout the rest of this year. Expect videos on this. All right. Next up, I bought One Hand Clapping. To me, I needed an album with Jeff Britton at the helm on drums, and I've always wanted this on album. This is like Pink Floyd at Pompeii. This is the album we should have always gotten right from the beginning. I am so glad I got it. Then we got, of course, last year I bought this, Band on the Run, 50th anniversary, right? You got the Unadorned tracks. That's worth the buy. So it's not like I'm not buying brand new albums by these guys, but I do buy the used albums from Paul when I see him out in the wild until I can get the whole collection. Paul is one of those individuals. I want pretty much everything on vinyl, and his lesser stuff, I'll take my time getting it, but his vital stuff is very important to me. So that gets us all back to this. What is going on here with Paul McCartney? We got to go back to the Beatles for a second. What have we gotten from the Beatles? Think about this. Since we got Revolver, I've shared that. I didn't bring it into the studio, or I'd pop up on that.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness, I saw that too, baby.
Kyle just came in with this thing.
There's a key group of people here, and they are very well represented tonight, who just do this all the time, huh, baby?
Oh yeah.
Deuce is one of them. All the people that have been in tonight are one of them. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you folks.
Absolutely.
Deuce's Wild says, Godspeed, Charlie Kirk. Yes, indeed.
Oh,
A man who engaged with the college youth to inform, debate, in civil discourse. I always thought he was very civil. He didn't have a shit-eating grin on his face. He was very forceful if he thought he was right, and he would go toe-to-toe with them, but always in a polite manner.
very
right?
genuine.
And civil discourse is so important. It's very much like what we do here. Rest easy. Yes, indeed. And it is, and that's the only reason I brought it up today, is my whole channel is based around public discourse. My whole channel is based around the fact that you guys aren't agreeing with probably half of what I've said about Paul McCartney tonight. I may have said something that cut down one of your favorite songs, and I don't even care for it as much. Like, I've had enough. I'm sure there's somebody watching me right now going, tits up, Mildred. I've had enough is one of his bias, and I know that's happening. I know that's happening. but it's discourse. It's give and take. It's an opinion, folks. Your world isn't going to collapse because I'm not excited about a certain Beatle release, or not excited or curiously underwhelmed by a new Paul McCartney release. That gets us back to the Beatles, what I was talking about, right? And McCartney's not the only one. We've gotten the John Lennon debacle album that sells for 170. The Wings will go for about 80 to 85 bucks, something like that. If you get the single, I guess that's right around 30 to $33. Okay. So it's not big. This one's not as overpriced as John Lennon. Still, when you think of what we're getting, what we've already gotten in the past, what you could find out in the wild, you wonder, because I'm sitting here, I'm going, is this a new release I want? And I pretty much kind of carved it out going, matter of fact, I turned down a Wayne's greatest album that was out in the wild, and I should have snapped that up. I went back the next time and it was gone. Uh, and I would be curious to have those, right? Just to have an anthology. And what is an anthology anymore? I'm starting to wonder. The Beatles anthology is a bunch of stuff, for the most part, that didn't make it. It's just old recordings. That's not what this is. This is, I guess, remastered. Nothing, or is it remixed and remastered? Yeah. And that might be worth it for people waiting for the couple of cuts that they're covering from London town and back to the egg. But the more I looked at it, I go, no, this is like the Beatles anthology, what they're offering us. 13 songs for that we haven't heard, 17 songs that other box sets have, that was sold and directed directly to old time Beatle fans, by the way, for the most part, right? And they're taking that and they're turning it into a C sampler. And it doesn't even go in order anymore. By the very nature of Anthology 4, they've messed up the whole rhythm of the album. So when I looked at that, and then I reached back, I said 2022 was the remixed Revolver box set. Boy, ate that up, begged my wife, please, baby, please let me have it. I want it, right? Needed it, got it. I still love it. It's wonderful. What a great box set that was. The very next year, what did we get? The Red and Blue albums. Now, I bought them back in the day. I was in my 20s already, right? So it was beyond that. And I was living with my first wife, and some of our records were getting old, and hey, let's get this on. And I was a Beatles fan, so I bought it. Yeah, 6 months to a year later, I wasn't listening to that album anymore. And a lot of you even admitted that, it was a good introduction, but once you got into the albums, you kind of tended to go listen to the albums. And it would become a record or a set of CDs you'd put on when company's over. It's a good, like I said, C sampler. So I wasn't interested in that. And the fact that they went ahead and they uh, remixed, oh God, songs from
Oh my
Rubber
goodness,
Soul.
hon.
Oh,
Just the facts.
hey, Dan. Dan
Dan,
the
thank you so
man.
much.
Oh
You're
my
so
goodness.
wonderful. Thank you, Dan.
Oh, Dan. Oh, listen to what he has to say here, baby. He says, your
Yeah.
show has made my evening much better after such a sad day. Thanks,
Yes.
Michael and Kimberly. Yes, Dan, thank you. Right?
Absolutely.
Public discourse, communication. I always call it dialogue here. That's all this is. And by the nature of YouTube, I have to be up here and fill the stream with stuff for you guys to watch, right? And what better way than to say, well, here's what I think is kind of cool. And oh, I don't like this idea. And then you guys can go, you nutcase, Michael. Why, you nutcase, you. And you start typing away, right? What's wrong with that? And some of you are very, oh God, Michael, you just. But as long as you're respectful, you can show you don't know what you're talking about. Mildred said so, right? And go for it. That's good Lord. I'm not asking for a conflictless world. That's conflict. That's verbal conflict of some sort, right? But the ability to do this, to end the discussion, fuck you. That's all I can say. Like I said, Dan, thank you so much. And I'm glad we're making your evening better. And I better get off this subject because that's not what this channel is all about. Like I said, there was a part of me that absolutely did not want to do this stream tonight with all that's going on, right? But then again, I go, what? You're going to get so pissed and you're so, bummed out and everything that you're not going to have a public discourse. The best way I could honor freedom of speech in this country was to get up here, despite a very horrible day in America, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so anyway, we got to this whole idea, and then they started remixing the Rubber Soul, and I've already made that big deal, like, hey, man, you got to release Rubber Soul next. And we thought Rubber Soul was going to be next after Revolver. Didn't that make sense? They started with Sergeant Pepper. They went forward. They backed up to Revolver. Looked like they were going to go backwards, but no, that's not what they had planned at all. Okay. So we thought, okay, next year for sure. This must be a cash grab of some sort. That's the way I see it. And then the next year, we got everything we never asked for from the Beatles all at once, a whole box set of American mono albums that the Beatles themselves cut down on numerous occasions. They wanted nothing to do with these albums. They complained, they bitched, they moaned their way into their solo careers over those American albums, and now they're embracing them like they're just so kissing cousins, aren't they? Right? And then that's what we got. And so a few of us long suffering, that was a long 2 years, God, thought, well, next year for sure, this time for sure. Hey, Robbie, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat, right? That's what we thought we were going to get, Rubber Soul. I mean, after all, it's the 60th anniversary, but the Beatles, they were being fair here. After all, it was the 30th anniversary of Anthology. 30th anniversary. Wait a minute, what am I talking about? That's right. A 30th anniversary seen as more important than the 60th anniversary of the first true classic rock album. I've talked about that until I'm blue in the face. That is the first album. I've said it in the past. Frank Sinatra did a few mood albums that were almost considered like conceptual. He would do music that would sound good while drinking martinis with a young lady at the bar. A whole album of that stuff, right? But it was the Beatles who first designed an album to be listened to from track one to track end. That was Rubber Soul. You can't change fucking history. That's how important this album is. I don't care if that's your favorite Beatle album or your least favorite Beatle album or somewhere in the middle. It just doesn't freaking matter. That is a fact. All right? That was the first pop rock album. Because at that point, rock and pop rock weren't that far apart from each other at all. And the Beatles treaded that difficult bit of territory very well. It's a damn rock album. And it's rock's first true album. And we get Anthology. And then we talked about, well, what does that mean? Well, that means, obviously, from 2023 all the way through 2025, the Beatles are aiming at a brand new audience, and it's not necessarily you or me. Why do I say that? Well, like I said, a goodly portion, how do you like that one, Brandon, of my audience is of at least, I'd say they're in their mid 40s to my age. I'm 70, right? Or even a little older. I've got people who are older than me by 10 years that come to the channel, right? But I have an older audience. Now, I have a growing younger audience, and I can only hope that continues in the future. Because I think what older rock fans can share with younger rock fans and be challenged by the energy of and the wants and the needs of younger rock fans could be an interesting discussion too, because that's what we're having right now. And I bet you didn't even know it. We're having a discussion on younger rock fans today because what they've done, what the Beatles have done here, especially with Anthology, and then Paul having the nerve to come up with another Beatle anthology the same year that the Beatles have a Beatle anthology. Boy, the guy's got nerve. Hey, he's my favorite rock star of all time. I'm a Paul guy, right? I love John and Paul evenly. I couldn't make up my mind between the two of them as long as John was around. And then we had decade after decade after decade of Paul McCartney after that fact. And I became, if I have to be honest, in my whole life, if there's one individual that is more responsible for giving me musical pleasure, ooh, he knows how to tickle my fancy, baby. It's Paul McCartney. Okay? But what an ego.
Yeah.
What an ego. And this album, there's tracks on here. I mean, my God, if you're going to do this, why not better represent Back to the Egg and London Town? And what's this with only one, well, kind of two Denny Lane songs? After all, it's called Wings, and they're calling it an anthology. And if there was ever another co writer for Wings, it was Denny Lane. And all we get is one Denny Lane song and Mull of Kintyre, which was originally a Denny Lane song to begin with. He's the one that wrote that portion, far have I traveled, blah, 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 right? And Paul was the one that came in and Mull of he's the pop writer. And he bought Denny Lane's rights out from underneath him. Denny made the deal. I'm not complaining about that, but I still think there should be, when you see the sheet music for that, written by, and I don't even mind Paul McCartney taking lead credit because of his pedigree, but written by Paul McCartney and Denny Lane. There's no other way to do that. He co-wrote that song, but we only get two Denny Lane songs, right? No Spirits of Ancient Age. I don't know. What do you do with this? And then I started looking at it. I go, okay, but just as a C sampler for $30, Michael, the price of what this would cost you brand new, right? What about the single album? And I got to tell you, when I look at this lineup, especially side one, boy, I got to tell you that's the one that really impressed me. Band on the Run, Let 'Em In. Okay, just a kind of a powerful piece like Band on the Run, kind of mellows out with Let 'Em In. Jet, right back down your throat. With a little luck, it kind of breathes, right? Arrow Through Me. Oh, one of my favorite cuts off Back to the Egg. And then 1985, a rocker to end it. Then with a slightly different flavor of silly love songs on there, a much more deceptively complex song than people give it. To write a song that has three complete songs within the same chord structure, and then to overlay those like Paul can occasionally do, just shows you what a superior pop songwriter he is. My Love, one of his finest songs that he ever wrote, even with the Beatles. It can be compared to that. Live and Let Die, right up there with a Beatle tune, as far as I'm concerned. Listen to What the Man Said. It's interesting. That always went real big. It's on one of my favorite albums. I got to tell you, it's not even one of my favorite songs on that album. But it was a big hit for him. People love it. It's still being played today. Good Night Tonight. I was surprised they put that one in here. Okay, it's kind of lopsided. And then Mull of Kintyre, which I think should have probably been put in the middle somewhere to give this side a chance to breathe, and end it with Live and Let Die. Good Night Tonight, I can live with it. I love the song. I love where he was going. And it does give you a little bit of disco Paul.
if nothing else, right? So it's a tasty little morsel, but I'm going, why? When I could spend the money, and what am I up to next that I got to get? Uh, yeah, I would love to get probably next. Well, I want to get a brand new Back to the Egg is probably next, and then we'll move down to Red Rose Speedway, which is a personal favorite and a hauntingly not as good album that I sure thought of the day it came out, right? But there are some choice pieces, my love, on that album, and I just never cared for Luke the Indian and all of that kind of stuff. All right. So that's what we're getting there. And when you look at what we're getting from Paul and what he's doing, what are Paul and the Beatles doing now? Now, I didn't mention Ringo's album. I listened to it. Yeah, it's pat nothing to me. And so I'm not interested in it. If you're interested in his latest album, that everybody's giving cheers and, oh, what a wonderful piece of music and everything. It bores me to tears. Nothing that Ringo has really ever done other than his initial singles in that first Ringo album has ever interested me much, other than the fact that he is one of the Fab Four. He's the best drummer in the universe when he's with the Fab Four, and I love his whole thumbprint on the Beatles. But I never really followed his solo career. I followed John and Paul, hook, line, and sinker, and George. Boy, there was a couple albums there. I went, a friend would get it first, and I go, I'm not sure I can waste the money when Uriah Heep just put out, so it would kind of get around that with George, but I bought George, his next album after All Things Must Pass, and it just kind of got, spotty there for a while. It's got wonderful music, by the way, on some of these albums, but as an entire album, you always felt a little lacking. And then came Cloud Nine, and I will say, as an epitaph, Brainwashed is a fine album, although you may find yourself wondering where George's voice went. And of course, his voice sounds a whole lot different. A lot of that had to do with what he was going through. So, what do you guys think about all this? All right. Are the Beatles now mining to a new motherlode? Younger fans. Now, it's interesting. The Beatles have always been one of those bands. Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, Pink Floyd, I would imagine, a couple other bands. Black Sabbath, definitely. Deep Purple. These are kind of bands that reinvent a brand new set of 16-year-old fans at high school. The in the know kid shares it with the rest of the kids. And then it's kind of cool to be a fan of those bands. And so they've always been able to regenerate fans in the past, but maybe they're not happy with the regeneration process. Or has the regeneration process died? Okay. Are less and less young people responding to the Beatles these days? It doesn't seem like that. When I look at them on YouTube, there's tons of young YouTube content creators that are major Beatle fans. So I don't think it's died, but maybe it's not producing what it naturally produced the first three or four generations of Beatle fans, whatever generation you perceive us to be at this point, right? I don't know. I'm first generation, and I know a few second generation people, and a few of you have told me you're third generation. But whatever generation you come from, you probably come from a generation that you found them quite organically, and now we're not seeing that. Now we see the Beatles purposefully pushing to a younger and on purpose to a growing vinyl community, right? And what are they pushing over what? They are pushing compilations and anthologies, now two in 1 year, over actual artistic album content. Back, these people made these albums. Paul McCartney made all of his albums to stand as an individual album. Here's my statement. Here's my musical statement this year. Buy it, try it, don't die it. Just buy it, right? And usually, for a long time anyway, McCartney had no trouble selling his albums out. He gave a lot of fans exactly what they wanted. The familiar sounds they were familiar from the Beatles, with an updated kind of interjection and even newer songwriting styles as Paul would grow, right? Sometimes to the point that you wish he hadn't gone into those other musical styles, I might add. Okay, so here's what we've got: a whole new generation is being shopped before our very eyes. And what does that mean to us? Should we, like I said, I'm of kind of new school and old school when it comes to collecting vinyl. I'm up to buying some of the latest releases. What was it? Was it? Yeah, it may have been. I'm trying to remember which one that I bought. It may have been Band on the Run. You know, the one that came with the extra disc. Bruce Cologne. Bruce, if you're out there and you watch this, let me know. Put a you know a comment and I'll answer it. But he wasn't going to get that. You know, he had already had the remastered before, and that's not enough and everything. For me, that was enough. I wanted to hear, yeah, deconstructed Band on the Run. So that was cool. But they were offering me something I never had before, right? And when it came to the anniversary remaster of Venus and Mars, lots of little silly things came in it. I showed you guys that on some of my videos and streams. You know, you got a lot of little stickers and things like that. As a matter of fact, I think you saw one of the stickers in the front when I showed it to you. And that's not why I bought it. I don't give a damn. I wouldn't care if it didn't come with any of the stuff that originally came from it, even the poster. Those are nice to have, but it's not going to make me go out and buy the album. The reason I bought it new was hearing how powerful the Venus and Mars mix was compared to the rather lackluster mix that I was hearing on Speed of Sound. So that's why I specifically went and got that album. So there is a lot of old school to me. I'm willing to be reshopped. I'm willing to rethink my bottom line, folks, but you got to give me a reason. So some of you younger viewers out there, some of you don't quite see it my way. Let me know. If you watch this as a stream later and you didn't catch me live, let me know what you think. Is there something I'm missing with these releases? Why are you choosing, even if you're my age, I don't care. Why are you choosing to get excited about this? I just saw James on his stream. Well, actually, he was on Caitlin's stream. How you doing, Caitlin? And he was talking. He's going to go get that. He wants that anthology. And he says, I have the first two, but I don't have the third. So I might as well get this. And that way I'll get the third and the fourth. And then he'll have two twos. But for James, that's a deal for him. He's excited as hell. So I know I'm not the only one that's feeling the way I do, right? And the Beatles usually know what they're doing. They usually make a profit on their music when it's re-released and reconfigured and everything. So I know a whole lot of you have got to be listening to me right now and going, Michael, I'm sorry. You know, this is just too important to me. You know, what's that from The Family Man? You know, did you take my ice cream or whatever it was? And she goes, no, it's too important to me. Right. So anyway, if you're of that kind of thinking, let me know. I want to hear both sides of the story. Like I said, there's nothing that I ever say that I'm not willing to change my mind on, but you got to give me something. All right, folks, you got to give me something. Let me take a look at who's here. My goodness, look at all you folks. Donna the Frank, I think I saw in there, so that's Frank. Tony Fox, good to see you, brother. Vinyl Gorilla Records, always good to see Vinyl Gorilla. I don't see you often here, man. It's so good to see you, man. I have I have dueled with Vinyl Gorilla over at Patrick's, and he's very nicely every once in a while quit auctioning or bidding for. And I've gotten a couple albums from Patrick that way. It's good to see you, brother. Really good to see you. Divining Dragon Christian, good, always good to see you there. Zombie Riccio, is that how you? It just goes to RCHIO, but we'll call you Riccio for right now, or Riccio. Colored vinyl got me hooked. I know, I know. Yeah. Now the pink, I'm a guy. Pink's not really. I'm a guy. You know, pink. Uh, Give me red, blood red. Yeah, that okay. I could deal with that, or even yellow, but a pink. I didn't understand that. I love the clear. I wish it could just come out in clear. I like clear vinyl. You know, I've got a couple of clear vinyls. So I hear you there. Caitlin, good to see you. Tony Fox, of course, I just said. Who else do we have here? Good Lord, so many of you. Boy, Vinyl, you're all over the place. And so is Zombie. And Tony, boy, you're just
Vinyl Gorilla Records is
cranking in there. What's that?
Vinyl Gorilla Records.
Yeah, I was just saying to the folks out there, I have been against Vinyl Gorilla Records from time to time on one of Patrick's,
Oh,
on several of, yeah. He's one of those guys out there. You know, he'll go a lot more steeper than me, baby. You'll be
Yeah.
glad to know that.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank
I've
you,
lost
baby.
many a bid to vinyl. Who else do we have here? Doc Insomnia came in with a ton of great comments here. Several of you did. As a matter of fact, let's see, Doc Insomnia. So if you're pissed off about not getting what you want, blame Heather. Working tonight, Doc Insomnia says, so he's listening to us from work as well, Brandon. So it all depends on how much work I have. If I get off by 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, I'll make it, or catch the second half, or just as Michael is about to shut it down. We'll see. Yeah, that ain't that the shits when you get onto a live stream and you go, what? He's done? You know, or she's done? I've done that many times with several streams that I like to kind of peruse. These days, I lurk, you know, because I'm so busy over here. I don't have time to be making silly comments. But I love some great streams that are out there. He says there's always the Roodles archaeology. That's what they would have to call theirs, huh? The Beatles have an anthology. The Roodles have an archaeology. Back in 64. Good news. He says John Lennon box set, Power to the People, all his 70 concerts, Garden, Fillmore, Apollo, etc., all in one deluxe package, $240, might be worth it. My biggest problem is with it is isn't that with Elephant's Memory and all that, Doc? I'm not a big fan of Elephant's Memory. I'm not a big fan of Sometime in New York. I had it. Sold it or traded it to somebody for a couple of albums. And I don't usually do that with Beatle albums, but I didn't dig it at all. And then on top of that, they cowardly took out "The Woman Is the of the World" song, right? And it pisses me off that you can't say that word now. But if I was a guy who was black, I could say that word on this very. I get pissed off at that when people start owning vocabulary, there's a problem with that. I didn't think it was a good word to use in a song to begin with. The song kind of offended me, and I was still God, I think I was still in my teens when that one came out. Yeah. And I thought it was garbage at the time. But if you're a fan of John Lennon, there's a lot being offered. But I'm getting tired of John Lennon being reinvented by the estate, to tell you the truth, Doc. Only bad thing is some censorship. One controversial track, he goes on to say, "Woman is the N word of the world," is missing from all set lists like it never existed. That's Yoko being politically correct only problem. I'm wondering if that's not Sean being overly politically correct at this point, you know, because he seems to be more in charge of that. Divining Dragon, let's see, what did he have to say? She said, Paul is already a billionaire. Seriously, the lad needs to sit down with the tribe, have a heart to heart, and answer a few challenging questions. I so agree. And what do you think the chances of that? I'm a loose cannon. puppy. I got news for you. And not a lot of rock stars are going to want to be interviewed by me because I probably opened my mouth over on something they didn't want to talk about. But yeah, Paul needs to get back to where he once belonged, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. Anybody else here? No, I think I got most of your comments there. All right, folks. Listen, today is a. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I knew we wouldn't get quite the audience we usually get. We still got a much better audience than I thought. A lot of sad news today. Today is a dark day in America, and I don't care what your politics are. There is absolutely no excuse for this. If this had been, think of anybody from the left side of the of politics. Anybody, name the one person that you might not like from the left. If it had been them instead of Charlie, I'd still be freaking livid. It's not the politics. It's the discussion, freedom of speech being shut down in America. All right, guys, I better shut up now. Um, because that's not what this channel is about. But it is when you think about it. I say what I fucking well want to say. I openly ask everybody of differing opinions to voice your concerns. Be respectful. You had to come in here with a bunch of four-letter words. You're out. Right? A debate is a debate. That's part of civilization. That's part of being civilized. What happened today happened because, and I don't even know, I quit watching. I had to turn this stuff off in order to get prepared today. But what happened today was perpetuated by the filthy, slimy pig that belonged to a subhuman, as far as I'm concerned. All right, folks, I love each and every one of you. And I do want to say this. Life is tough and then you die. There's no doubt there is some truth to that old saying, right? And you have spots of glowing, wonderful times and everything. And the idea to become a better person, even in your dotage, even dealing with physical things, is still worth the ride, okay? But when we choose to allow this kind of uncivilized bullshit to happen in this country, we're in a lot of trouble. All right, folks. Good night.